You can make the yummiest, moist and fluffy cornbread without refined sugar or white flour with my gluten-free, sweet and savory cornbread recipe. It has an incredible sweet and savory flavor from all natural ingredients, including almond flour, cornmeal, cottage cheese, and applesauce. The natural sweetness is enhanced by a lightly savory seasoning of garlic and paprika. It's the perfect side to a special dinner or as a healthy snack. And add a small pat of butter and a drizzle of honey, and I promise you will be in fall flavor heaven. We're gonna begin by preparing an 8x8 baking pan, and I find it so much easier if I line it with parchment paper first. So I've cut a piece of parchment paper that's a little bit wider than my pan, and then I'm going to fold up one side along the straight edge, place my pan on top, score my paper on the other side, so it's the same width as my pan. Fold it down on my score line, keeping it straight with the paper. Flip it upside down, press it into my pan, and then score the inside fold on both sides, and then flip the paper over, give it another fold, flip the other edge over, give it a fold, and now you have a parchment-lined pan. And this will make it so much easier for lifting your bread out of the pan after it's baked. But you'll still want to spray the exposed pan edges with some nonstick. I'm just going to use some coconut oil. One of the ingredients that makes this cornbread extra moist and adds even more nutritional value is cottage cheese. But we do want to blend down that curdled texture so that it's nice and smooth in our bread. So you could use a blender, or I'm going to use the little chopper cup that comes with my immersion blender. So I'm going to begin by adding half a cup of cottage cheese, and you can use large curd, small curd, non-fat, full fat, whatever your preference. And then we'll add 1/4 cup of oil. My favorite is light olive oil. As our natural sweetener, 1/4 cup of honey. As an additional natural sweetener and delicious flavor, 1/4 cup of unsweetened applesauce, 2 tablespoons of milk, and I'm using almond milk, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar for a little bit flavor as well as moistness, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. But we're not going to add our eggs just yet because we're going to blend this until smooth, and that would overbeat our eggs. So I'm just going to put on my lid and blend until it's smooth and creamy. So now you'll never be able to detect the cottage cheese texture. Now we'll pour this mixture into a mixing bowl. And then now we can add our 2 eggs, and then I'll whisk those together just until combined. Next we'll add our dry ingredients, which includes 1 cup of almond flour, 1/2 cup of cornmeal, and then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then to add a really delicious, subtle but savory flavor to this cornbread, I'm going to add some paprika and some garlic powder. We'll add 1/2 teaspoon paprika, which is also going to enhance that really beautiful golden color of the cornbread. And we'll add 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. And then we'll mix this together just until combined. And then you get this really beautiful batter that smells so good already. And now we simply pour the batter right into our prepared pan. And then we'll simply spread our batter throughout the pan. And then give it just a couple of taps on the counter just to get out any air bubbles. Now it's ready to go into a 350-degree oven for about 25-26 minutes until it's nice and golden on the top and a toothpick comes out clean. This cornbread cooked for 26 minutes in my oven, and then I took it out and let it cool on a cooling rack on my counter for about 30 minutes. So now it is ready to slice and serve. So first I'm going to take a knife and just quickly run it along the edges that were exposed to the pan just to make sure it releases easily. And then I can just easily lift it out of my pan with my little parchment paper handles. Now if you or your family like both the edge pieces as well as the center pieces, then you can go ahead and just cut it right into squares. But if you happen to have the majority who like to have center pieces, then you can use this really simple hack to make all of the pieces look like they came from the center. And that's just to go along the edges and just barely cut off the cooked edge of the bread. So I'm just going around each edge with my serrated knife, just barely cutting off the cooked edge. But the edges are also really delicious and I guarantee will not go to waste. And I found that the 8x8 pan makes really convenient little 2x2 inch squares of cornbread. So I'm just going to cut it into fourths and then cut each fourth into fourths. My favorite way to enjoy this cornbread is with just a little bit of butter on top and a little extra drizzle of honey, of course. And if you're going to add honey, it is a little bit easier to eat with a fork. That is so good. As soon as you bite in, you get that really moist and fluffy texture that just has the perfect bite to it. And then you get the sweetness that comes in from the honey, but then you get such an amazing depth of flavor that's coming in from the applesauce as well as that little bit of garlic powder and the paprika. The taste has a perfect balance between lightly savory and naturally sweet, which means it's going to pair wonderfully with any dinner, but also make a really delicious snack that almost feels like you're eating a dessert. And with all natural ingredients, you're going to feel just as good after you eat it. And as you've seen, it couldn't be any easier to make. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today in my kitchen, and I've included a link to the full recipe, and it's in the video description below, which will lead you to my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you know someone else who would love to have a delicious cornbread recipe, please share this recipe with them. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen.